ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. O Ramakrishna, the establisher of the eternal religion, the incarnation of all the religions, embodiment of all the religions, and the best of all incarnations, we salute thee. In the last reading class, we left at page 470 of Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, part 1. So from page 470, para 19, we continue today. Last time we were discussing about the power of attorney and hypocrisy that is possible, that people can play, saying that they have given the power of authority, power of attorney to the Guru, and then bad consequences. These were all discussed in the last reading class. Now we will continue the several experiences of the Master. So much for the power of attorney. Let us now follow the main topic. Ask any devotee of the Master, and he will unhesitatingly declare that with the passage of time, he finds through the Master's grace deeper and deeper meanings in his words. Further, we are now amazed to find wonderful meanings and sentiments in many of the Master's words and actions, which at the time of hearing or seeing them yielded no clear meaning, and which we simply took in, charmed by his personality. So the author says that when they heard these same words directly from the Master, they could not find such deep meaning in it. After a long time of meditation, cogitation, mentalization, now later on they realized the depth of the meaning of every word he spoke. There was a lot more of meaning than they could understand when they heard it first. That's what happens when the children go. Our children, we send them to primary schools. So when they first hear the teacher something, telling something, they just copy what he said. But the meaning of that one, they experience as they proceed to the higher classes. What they could not understand in class 1, they understand it better in class 2. The class 2 lessons, when they hear, they understand it one way. They understand it better when they come to class 3. So like that, so experience, hard work, deep thinking, and the grace of the teacher, grace of the Guru, all this go to make one's mind realize the depth of the meanings of the teachings of great people. So, the favorite saying of the Master was, "Ah, my children, you will succeed at the right time. You will understand at the proper time." Can you get a fruit immediately you sow the seed? First there is a sprout, then a sapling, then it grows into a plant, next it produces flowers, and at last it yields fruits. It is just like that. But one has to persevere and not give it up. Listen to what is said in this song. Saying so, the Master would sing in his melodious voice, "O brother, persist joyfully, you will succeed gradually. What went wrong will be set right. Anka was saved, Banka was saved, and the butcher Sujan was saved. Teaching the parrot, the prostitute was saved. So was saved Mirabai. Having the wealth and treasure of the world, the trader still drives the bullock. When misfortune overtakes him, no trace of all this will be left. Have such deep devotion in your mind. Give up hypocrisy and craftiness. The king of the line of Raghus will be attained easily by virtue of service, worship and surrender." Yeah, beautiful song of Mirabai. Sri Ram, he would then say, his service, worship and surrender, that is humility. Everything will come right if one has faith and adheres to these things. That means it is necessary to stick to the sadhana. His direct vision is certain. But if one gives this up, there stops one's progress. There was a man who had a job, and with considerable difficulty he saved some money, little by little. One day counting, he found that there was a saving of 1,000 rupees. He was at once beside himself with joy and thought, why should I be in service anymore? There is already a saving of 1,000 rupees. What more is necessary? Saying so, he gave up the job. A puny man with a puny ambition, he was puffed up on account of his paltry sum and looked down upon others. But how many days will it take to spend 1,000 rupees? It got exhausted in no time. He fell on evil days and danced attendance on office superintendents of every office for a job. It will not do to act thus. One has to wait patiently at his door. If one is prepared to do that, then alone will one succeed. So, hard sadhana, hard spiritual practice are necessary. Again, while he was singing, you will succeed gradually. The master would suddenly say, why gradually? One should not practice such a lukewarm devotion. One should have the burning faith in one's heart. And just realization must come just now. That is how one should think. I will see him this very moment. Can half-hearted devotion help one to realize him? So this should be our burning faith in ourselves when we go for realization of God. The master, an embodiment of spiritual moods. Whenever we looked at the master, we felt that he was the very embodiment of spiritual moods. The 5 moods are there, the Sakhya, Vatsalya, Dasya, Madhura. All these five types of moods of bhakti. He was an embodiment of that. We felt that we saw his form because the spiritual moods had consolidated themselves in him, so to say. We talk glibly of physical changes taking place simultaneously with the changes of mental moods, but come across only a little of such phenomena. In all of us, the mental changes will bring physical changes, there is no doubt. Because if mentally, suppose we are very downcast, then our face will show that we are not happy. As soon as our friends see, why you look very pensive, that means our mind has reacted on the body. So what is in the mind is reflected on our face. So some changes take place, and the body also, according to our thoughts inside. These are all our practical experience. But we could not imagine, even in dream, that the surge of mental moods could bring about so much of change in the body as in the case of the master. It was extraordinary changes would come on the master's body. In Nirvikal Samadhi, the master's eye consciousness disappeared totally, and along with it, his pulse, heartbeat, etc. also stopped simultaneously. See the tremendous power of his thought. He thinks that I am a divine being. I have nothing to do with this body. So when he is in the divine mood of any one of these 5 moods, that Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhura, etc., he goes into that ecstasy, he goes into samadhi, and his body ceases to function. heart also will stop. That is, the author is telling us. Simultaneously, pulse, heartbeat, etc. also stopped. Mahendralal Sarkar, who is a great doctor, and other doctors examined him with the help of instruments and no sign of functioning of his heart. Not satisfied with that, his friend, another doctor, went further and touched with his finger the master's eyeball and found it insensitive to touch like that of a dead man. At the time of practicing Sakhi Bhava, Vatsalya, Sakhi Bhava is the mood of friend, like Arjuna to Krishna. The master continually meditated on himself as a woman servant of Sri Krishna and became so much identified with that idea that womanly behavior, woman's mode of standing, walking, sitting, talking, etc., were naturally manifested in his body. So much so that Mathuranath and others, who were his constant companions, mistook him on many occasions for a woman guest. We have heard so much from the Master and have ourselves seen so many similar phenomena that the laws of modern psychology and physiology, so far considered to be conclusive, have to be re-enunciated. Will people believe these occurrences even if they are told? So, mental changes can bring physical changes. That opens a new vista in the field of psychology and neurology. How we can bring it up voluntarily. So a great incarnation brings about changes. He thinks that he is a woman and his body acts just like a woman. How much of practice one has to do? The incarnations, what they achieve in a short time may not be same thing to us. What he achieves in 1 year, it may take 20 years for us or even more. But a new vista, new road is open, new knowledge is open for the psychology, that by changing the mind, you can change the body. So you can, changing in the mind and putting positive ideas, perhaps you will cure many impossible diseases of the body, impossible troubles or other evil things in the body. So through the mind, cure the body. So mind has effect on the body. This may be a new way to be experimented in psychology and neurology. So that's what the author is suggesting. Will people believe these occurrences even if they are told? So these are all they have occurred things, facts. With these facts, if you have faith, you can start experiment and find out new ways of psychology and neurology to cure many things what we today consider as incurable. But the most striking thing we have seen in him is his power of roaming everywhere in the realm of ideas. His power of understanding all ideas, great or small, of all persons, of a boy or an adult, of a monk or a householder, of a devotee or a Vedanti, of man or woman, his power of grasping the inner thoughts and sentiments of each spiritual aspirant, of knowing how far he had advanced in the realm of spirituality, what path he had adopted, what his current needs were for taking him further along his own line of progress. And what is most important, his wonderful power of prescribing just the course needed and suitable. This was extraordinary power. Looking at person, he could know the problems in his mind, the setup of his mind, and how he could be taken to reach his goal of spiritual enlightenment by removing all these obstacles. So he would come to know by just looking at the spiritual aspirants, he could immediately guess this is his trouble, these are the obstacles, And if they are removed, his progress will be done like this and he will reach the goal. So all these things he could immediately know by some sort of a superhuman power. When we deeply think of these things, it seems to us that the Master had previously experienced in his life the whole range of ideas, past, present and future, without exception. Anybody, if he looks, so he says, I have seen a man like this. So that was this case. That was how he was cured. Prescribe this. So that means he has the experience of every type of aspirant that is aspiring to reach the enlightenment. As soon as he saw, he would find a similar case which he has already seen and he knows the cure. He would immediately prescribe. That means he is omniscient. He knows everything, knows everybody. In every case, what we call as future was no future for him. So he has experienced all those things in the past. The past only will become present. Present will become future. So now future will become present and present will become past. So he has experienced so much. So he can find a similar case and immediately therefore he will prescribe a remedy. So the whole range of ideas, past, present and future without exception, that he had stored his memory in great detail with the entire history of each of the states from the time of its appearance to that of its disappearance, from birth to death of every individual that has come down to this earth. This Sri Ramakrishna knows. He knows everything, everybody. And that it was owing to this fact that whenever anyone came and told him of his mental state, he grasped and understood it by comparing it with what was stored up in his mind and gave the appropriate prescription then and there. It is a fantastic thing. It is just like an encyclopedia. All subjects are there. You say so and so subject, only turn the page, you get everything about it. Or nowadays you can say Wikipedia. So you get everything. So Sri Ramakrishna's mind was like that. Anything you want, just turn, he has got his reply for you. Full reply for it. This was his rule in everything. When anyone came to him as an humble inquirer, confronted with extremely trying situations like worldly attachment, worldly turmoil, the persistence of some idea or emotion contrary to the practice of renunciation, etc., and unable to find a way out, the Master would invariably give him the proper direction and by way of encouragement tell him his own experiences under similar conditions. He would say, my child, such and such events came to pass then and I adopted such and such means. It is needless to add that great hope filled the inquirer's heart when the Master said so, and with much faith and perseverance he went forward. The aspirant went forward along the path specified by the Master. That was not all, but he felt how great the Master's love for him was when he saw him confiding his heart's secrets to him. One or two examples will make this clear. So the author is giving us some examples of how Sri Ramakrishna would diagnose and cure and guide. A promising son of Manimohan Malik of Sindhuriyapatti, Calcutta, died. No sooner had he performed the ceremonies connected with the cremation than Manimohan came to the Master. Saluting the Master, he sat with a heavy heart in a corner of the room. He saw many inquiring devotees, seekers after truth, men and women, sitting in the room, and the Master was talking to them on various spiritual topics. He had sat for a short time when the Master's eyes happened to fall on him. and with a nod of his head asked him, "Well, why do you look so sad today?" In a choked voice, Manimohan answered, "So and so," naming his son, "died today." Seeing his haggard appearance and hearing his choked voice, everyone in the room was dumbfounded and sat speechless. Everyone felt that any word of consolation could not assuage the deep pain and agony raging in his heart. Nevertheless, they began to console him in words such as, "Such is the way of the world. Everyone must die some day. Whatever has happened cannot be undone by shedding tears 1,000 times. Therefore, give up grief. Have patience." Man has been consoling men and women struck with grief from the beginning of creation in these words. But alas, how few are the hearts that are thereby consoled. And how can they be? It is only when the three things, our minds, our words, and our actions, are inspired by the same feeling, that our words can touch others' hearts and raise similar waves of feeling there. But with us, this qualification is altogether wanting. We say the world is transitory, but every thought and action of ours is contrary to this idea. Though we advise others to consider this world to be transitory, like a dream, we always regard it in our heart of hearts as eternal and make arrangements for living here forever. How can our words acquire that power? Although all the others poured forth the hackneyed phrases of consolation to Manimohan, the master was all the time merely listening to his words of grief without speaking anything whatsoever. When they saw the indifferent mood of his, some were surprised and thought how hard, how devoid of compassion his heart was about Sri Ramakrishna, because he did not speak. All were giving him consolation. Sri Ramakrishna was just keeping quiet. So all thought he is a hard-hearted man. Let us see how he reacts now. As he was listening to the words of the old man, the master gradually passed into ecstasy, a state of divine semi-consciousness. Suddenly, with the pose and energy of a wrestler, he stuck his left arm just below the shoulder with the palm of his right hand and stood up and began singing with an unprecedented vigor, like a wrestler ready to fight with the next wrestler in front of him, contestant. "O man, prepare yourself for battle." Sri Ramakrishna is uttering this. "There, see death entering your house in battle array. Therefore, ride on the chariot of great virtue. Harness it to the horses of devotion and spiritual practice. Stretch up the bow of knowledge and shoot the unfailing arrow of the love of God. Listen, there is another plan of good strategy. All the enemies can be killed without a chariot or a charioteer if Dasharathi take the field on the bank of the Bhagirathi." So, Sri Ramakrishna was standing up like a valorous fighter, wrestler, and singing this song. The tune of the song, expressing great vigor and the appropriate gesture, coupled with the spirit of heroic renunciation and strength coursing from the master's eyes, produced in the hearts of all a current of wonderful hope and energy. All of them were feeling hopeless before this depressed heart of the father who has lost his son. Now all of them are filled with strength So, and they are filled with hope and energy. The heart of everyone was raised from the realm of grief and delusion and filled with a wonderful divine bliss which was beyond the senses and beyond the world. Mani Mohan too felt in his heart, forgot the agonizing grief, and was now calm, grave, and in perfect peace. The song came to an end, but its few words, yet so sung by the Master, generated waves of spirituality, which filled the room for a long time and were palpably felt like a presence by all. All were still and lost themselves in the spiritual mood. It is God alone who is our own. We offer our heart and life to Him. May He bestow His compassion on us and reveal Himself to us. When the Master's ecstasy came to an end, a little later, he sat by the side of Mani Mohan, and said, "Ah, what burning pain is there on earth which can compare with the grief of the death of a son? A son is born of this sheath body, isn't he? So his relation to the body persists as long as it lasts." Saying so, the Master began to describe to him the death of Akshay as an example. Akshay was his elder brother's son. As a youth he died, and Sri Ramakrishna had seen the death so touchingly that it seemed as if he was visualizing before his eyes the death of Akshay. He said, "Akshay died. I felt nothing at the time. I was standing and was witnessing how man dies. I saw there was, as it were, a sword in a sheath, and the sword was brought out of it. The sword was not at all affected. It remained as it was, and the sheath lay there. I felt great joy to see it. I laughed and sang and danced. They then burned the boy and returned. That sheath was burned. Body is the sheath, and the sword is the soul. So they burned the boy, means burned the body, and returned. The next day I was standing there, pointing to the veranda to the east of his room and near the courtyard of the Kali temple. And do you know what I felt? I felt as if my heart was being wrung in the way a wet towel is wrung. My heart was feeling for Akshay like that. I thought, Mother, this has no relation with even the cloth it wears. Ah, how great was then the relation with the nephew. When it is so, even here with himself, how agonizing the pain must be to the householders. Thou art showing that, aren't you? So Sri Ramakrishna had the experience. He says that, you see, Akshay was not my son, and I was detached with everyone. So I was detached with Akshay also. Even then I felt so much of pain on his death. How much more you should feel. So much of human feelings are there. On one side, the divine side of the incident is, he sees the soul is unaffected, and the soul is the real man. So nothing has happened to the real man. On the other side, as a human being, attached to the body, being a relative or a friend, how human feelings should be there, was revealed to him by the Divine Mother. He felt tremendous agony in his heart, as if he had lost something very, very important in life. But do you know, continued the Master a little later, those who take refuge in him do not go down to the bottom even on account of this unbearable grief. They regain their balance, but after a few tossings, persons of small capacity, like small vessels, lose their control, their balance altogether, and go down. Haven't you noticed the plight of the small fishing boats when steamers pass through the Ganga? it looks as if they are lost and are gone. Some are capsized altogether. The bigger vessels carrying tons of load regain their balance after a few tossings. But a toss or two must be felt by all. So he gives an example. When a big steamer goes, it creates tremendous waves in the Ganga, and those high waves toss the smaller boats. Some may capsize also. But a bigger ships, bigger vessels, they do not get affected. But they also feel some shaking. So everyone will have shaking, but they keep the balance. What are these bigger ships? Are those that have the spiritual strength, that have the discrimination power to know that we as spiritual beings, we lose nothing in this world, nor gain anything in this world. So we can be equi-minded. We can have a level balance of our mind towards the good as well as towards the bad. So, after a short pause of serious gloom, the master added again, how few are the days during which the relationship among all these sons, parents, etc. in this world exists. Desiring happiness, a man enters the world. He marries, he begets a son, the son grows, he gets his son married. Thus a few days pass pleasantly, then one gets ill, another dies, still another goes astray, and the man is beside himself with worries and anxieties. The more the frustration, the louder the lamentation. Haven't you noticed how the wet fuel burns in a sweet maker's oven? It burns well at first. Then, as it is burning, the sap begins to ooze out through its hinder parts and assumes the form of froth, which bubbles and bursts and produces various kinds of hissing sounds. It is just like that. He was thus consoling Mani Mohan by speaking to him on a variety of topics, such as the transitoriness and hollowness of the world, taking refuge in the Divine Lord, the only source of happiness, and so on. Mani Mohan felt consoled and said, "This was why, sir, I came running to you. I knew that there was no one else who could assuage this fire of grief." A father was lost his son. He says, "My grief has gone because of your words." See the powerful words of Sri Ramakrishna. So we shall read more about such incidents in our next reading class. Today we shall close here itself. Niranjanam nityamanantarupam bhaktanukampadhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram parameshamidhyam tam Ramakrishnam shirasa namamaha. O Ramakrishna, the taintless one, the eternal one, the one with infinite forms, the one who has assumed form for the sake of his devotees, the incarnate Supreme Lord, the adorable Lord of all, we salute, bowing our heads to Thee.